Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2020 registration form webinar. So good to see everybody. We're going to take care of a few housekeeping rules first. So if your phone is not muted, please mute. We'll keep everybody on mute pretty much during most of the presentation, and then we'll, if you have a question, you can type it in chat for now, and the chat is on the right-hand bottom side of your screen. So if you have a question at any point, just type it in the chat box. It's 2:01, so we're going to get started. Welcome again to the 2020 registration form webinar. We're doing things a little bit differently this year. I'm going to teach the webinar. Lance is over there to the side, and Stacy's here. The first thing I want to talk about is our website. So if you don't remember anything else today, you can remember that ok.gov/911. Any questions you have, the forms are there, our contact information is there. So ok.gov/911 is the website that you need to remember. So we're talking about registration forms today, and whenever you submit your information, it takes a team effort for us to process that information. So we're going to introduce our team. You can go back, Stacy. That's okay. You're good. I'm Karen Douglas, and I'm the Grants and Compliance Officer for the 911 Management Authority. And
I am Stacy Roots, and I am the Administrative Programs Officer.
we also have
Hi, I'm Lance Terry. I am your State 911 Coordinator.
Great. So that is our team. There's just 3 of us, but we get a lot of things done. So it is registration form time. Just so you know the importance of the information that you submit. We use this information all the time, and it has many different uses. One of our goals is to get the most accurate picture of what it costs to run 911 as a state. And what's going on operationally, what's going on technologically as a state. So this information is very valuable for us legislatively. We use this information to do reports for our board. Just on and on and on. There's so many uses. So we really appreciate you all, putting this information in for us. Okay, you can go to, yeah, you're good. So today we're going to talk about the legislation that created why we do these forms. We're going to have an overview of Form 1, 2, and 3. We'll talk a little bit about what we've made, some of the changes we've made on the forms that you'll notice this year. And then we'll pull out a few questions that we'll pull out a few questions that we normally get a lot of questions about. So we can't go over each question, due to time, but we have pulled out a few of the questions that we normally either we have questions about your answer, or you usually call us and say, I'll remind everyone again that if you're just coming on, to please mute for us. And if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat. Okay, you can go to the next slide. So here's the why we do the registration forms. Oklahoma State Statute 632864.7 requires that PSAPs do an annual report that shows operations and the finances. Next slide. Also 632864.4 Also, at the behest of the 911 Management Authority, they can direct the tax commission to escrow any portion of funds if the
Are you muted
forms.
on yours? Is yours muted?
No, I think I'm good. If the forms are not submitted, so that would be if we don't receive a Form 1, a Form 2, a Form 3, and a budget, the 911 Management Authority does have the authority to escrow any funds, which we do not like to do that. And that's why we have webinars and we're available at any time practically to answer any questions that you have. Next slide. If you'd like to look at the state statutes and view them in their entirety, you can go to our website, ok.gov/911, and you can view the statutes under the statutes and rules section. Next slide. So we do have a handful of new people that probably are in attendance. So we'll just do a quick overview of the forms themselves. The first form is the one that everyone loves to submit because it's just basically your contact information. So it's probably the easiest form to submit, but it's really one of the most important forms because whenever we need to contact you, we need the right information. So we ask for your main PSAP contact information, your 911 coordinator contact information, operations manager contact information. Whoever does your finances, we're looking for that person's contact information, your IT person, and whoever does your GIS addressing. And we actually use that one quite a bit, almost on a daily basis. We receive requests for GIS addressing for homes. So we use all of that information quite a bit. So please keep that updated. And the way you can update that information is send us an address if you ever have a change. Form 2 is where you would give us your equipment and call data information. So we're basically going to be asking you questions on your NG 911 system and your NG 911 readiness, your operations information, staffing numbers, the types of calls your PSAP can receive, and your 911 call data. Form 3 is basically just your financial information where we ask revenue and expense questions. So now we're going to talk about the changes that we've implemented this year on the form. So we've tried to make the forms a little bit more user-friendly. We tried to put more tips, clues, hints, definitions, explanations on the forms themselves to kind of help a little bit. We've put these, what do we call these? We put symbols. We put these three little symbols and icons that you'll see throughout the forms now. So like the little red light indicates just some important information, instructions or reminders. You see the telephone is just extra notes and explanations, or you might even see a key on some of the forms, and those are just resources to help you if you get stuck. You also may see some highlighted information. That's also just extra instructions that we've added to the forms that hopefully will help you to know what we're looking for a lot easier. So one of the things we've added this year is we've added citizen contact information. So if any of the other contact information is not something that you want citizens to contact you through, if it's not a phone number or email address that you want just the public to contact you through, please give us the information that you would like for the citizens to contact you through on this. It's one of the changes that we've added. So you'll include that there. Okay, one of the questions some of the questions that we've also added this year deal with your NG 911 status, where you are in your development of NG 911 at your PSAP. And we ask these questions because we also have to submit an annual report to the FCC, and they ask us some questions about our NG 911 development as a state. So we've added some of those questions for you as well. Another change is COOP plan information. I think some years we've had COOP plan questions and some years we did not. So this year we do have COOP plan questions on the registration forms, and we get a lot of questions about COOP plans. So we thought we would just kind of give a definition, just a brief definition of a COOP plan. So whenever your PSAP has an emergency, you have to have an evacuation or your systems are down. What is your plan? What is your procedure for transferring your calls and for where your staff will go during the transfer? So we also get a lot of questions. We get asked a lot, do we have examples of COOP plans? Which we do, but they're not very good, so we don't like to give them out. So hopefully with the information that we give you today, you can just create your own. And a lot of COOP plans are verbal, but of course we prefer for them to be written. So if just your basic COOP plan, the information that it would have is who, what, when, where, and how. So who is evacuating? What agency is the PSAP transferring to? When can the PSAP take the calls back to the location, the original location? Where is the PSAP backup location going to be? And how is the PSAP taking back calls? So there are a few questions that we wanted to point out. Particularly Form 3 on the financial form. One of the issues that we identify a lot is that it looks like the numbers are from the budget instead of the actual numbers. So when you get to the financial form and you get to the revenue and the expense section, we need actual numbers, not the budgeted numbers, but what did you actually take in for revenue? What did you actually have in expenses for each of the categories? Okay, hold on, go back one, Stacy. Okay. Also, if you'll recheck your numbers, sometimes they don't add up. I know that there's on the financial form, you have to add numbers 2 through 6 and put the total in question 1. So just to be sure that those numbers add up correctly, or we'll flag it and we'll go back to you and ask for confirmation for the correct total. Also, things like we've seen where the operational salary total would be more than the revenue taken in. So that's also something that we would flag, because it kind of says that you're not paying your staff, which we know is probably not true. So just look out for little things like that and recheck your numbers over. And the building cost should never be 0. And Stacy created this awesome explanation of how to calculate your building costs, because we know that sometimes you're not actually paying for the space that you're in, but we still, since we're trying to find the actual cost, how much it costs to run your 911 center, we need to know what it would cost, even if you're not paying for space. What would it cost if you were? So I'm going to turn it over to Stacy just briefly, and she's going to go over the form.
Okay, so we all know when you have a shared space that there's certain areas that are used by the department and there's certain areas that are used by the dispatch center. So if you isolate the rooms or areas that the dispatch center uses, and you find either the square foot or you measure each wall, either way is just fine. But you find the square feet that is being used, and then you contact whoever is paying the bill for the building. Like if you pay a lease, if you pay rent, if the building is owned by the department and the sheriff pays that bill, or the building is owned by the city and someone at the city's clerk's office or county commissioner, whoever is paying for that building. And that those funds could be included, not just the rent or the lease or that cost, but how much is being paid monthly to maintain it, to clean it, to make it cool or make it 500 degrees. If you're like our office, ours is always cold. So who is paying for that service and how much is that cost to the department or the sheriff's office or the city to have use of that building? Take that cost and put that against the square footage. So, and you can find out, even they may be able to tell you how much a square foot they're paying per year or per month. Per year is probably easier, but if you find out that cost and you put that against the square footage, you can find out how much the PSAP is paying, whether you're actually paying or not, for the use of that building. So there's, I broke it down. One, I use the perimeter. One, I use square footage. But if you have any questions when you're going through this process, or you need help finding out who is paying your bills, who do you contact, give us a call. We're more than willing to help. But showing the cost of the building as zero is pretty detrimental to showing the cost of doing business in Oklahoma. So however we can help you to get this number, we're more than willing to do. If you have any questions or we can help out in any way, give us a call, shoot us an email. We're more than happy to help.
Thanks, Stacy.
You're welcome.
So let's see. The last but not least thing is once you complete Form 1, Form 2, and Form 3, remember to send in a budget. And we know that some people have their budget included in a departmental budget, whether that be with the police department or the fire department. We prefer that you have a PSAP dedicated budget is what we prefer that you could send in, but we understand that not everyone can do that. So just remember that last step, because your forms won't be, your information won't be marked as completely received unless you send in that budget, and you do have to email that in. After we receive your information, we will do report cards, which we'll send you. It'll have the questions. If we have any questions, it will be on the report card. So we may need you to confirm some information, or maybe something was off to us, and we'll ask you questions about it. And so you just send us that information back and say, yes, that was the correct number, or no, I put the wrong number in the wrong space, so here's the correct information. So once we finish reviewing your report card, we'll send it to you, and if there's questions that we have, please send it back to us with the answers to our questions. So with that, we'll take any questions now. Make sure you type your questions in the chat. We have our website there. There is an awesome fact sheet that is pretty detailed that can walk you through some things. There's our email address where you will email the your budgets, and there's our phone number to call us if you have any questions at all. We are here to help you. Do we have any questions? We'll give it a minute. I'll do something fun right here, just off the cuff. I'm going to ask a question. Does anybody know why this is called a registration form? Does anyone know why this is called a registration form? If you do know the answer to that question, put it in the chat.
There you go.
That doesn't show a question.
Okay. Karen, it looks like we do have a question.
Okay, I don't see it.
Tim Davidson asked on question 3, the total cost of the PSAP per building. Do we include costs such as loan payments and utilities? Yeah, I can. Go ahead and turn your sound down real quick. So the answer is yes, Tim. You would include your utilities and loan payments and anything associated back to the cost. And actually, Tim being from Muskogee is kind of the reason why we asked this question. You know, Tim, you run a center out there that's a county consolidated center that's ran through a trust. And we know that you have costs that others do not. And there's other centers that are similar to you. So we have to, in order to try to compare apples to apples when you're talking to legislators, if you looked at what Muskogee's costs were, they're going to be different than what others are. So I know this is a pain, and I know it's work to try to get that information. But you know, costs are costs, and if you are on your own doing your own thing, somebody's paying for that. So that's what we're trying to level out. So Tim, I hope that answers your questions. Yes, you do include loan payments, utilities, and things like that. There's another question from Kay Kelly. Do you want this year's budget or last year's budget? This year's budget is not approved yet. We want the most recent approved budget. So it would be the FY20 budget would be fine. Then Mary Harris has a question. Last year, there was confusion as to whether or not abandoned calls are counted in the total call count. Did we get that one fixed this year? Mary, abandoned calls are included in calls that are received. So yes, they are, but I do not believe we actually put in a column for abandoned calls. So right now we're just capturing the abandoned calls as calls for service or calls that came in through 911. Because in essence, it's still a call for service that comes in. So when you're running your reports, if your reports break out abandoned calls as something separate, then you know, obviously we want to capture those and make sure because a call to 911 is still a call to 911.
Yes. Questions number 6 under Form 2, letter F, is list the total of all 911 hang-ups and abandoned calls. And we are asking them to calculate 2 through 6.
Okay.
So it is included in the call.
Yep. So we will include those. All right. What other questions do we have?
Why is it called a registration form?
It's called out in the statute as a registration form because when the statute was passed, we were trying to get all the PSAPs to register with the state of Oklahoma. And so when the initial discussions happened when we were trying to pass legislation, the registration form is what stuck. And so really what you're doing is you're registering your information with the state. I don't know why we stuck with that, and probably should be called something different, but for now, that's what it is. Real quick, I want to, while I wait for any other questions to come in, I want I want to thank my team. You know, it's a heavy lift to go through this stuff and to put this all together, not just the registration forms, but put together this PowerPoint and things like that. So, you know, Stacy did an excellent job putting this together, and not just Stacy, but Karen, you know, working together as a team. I'm just super proud of these two ladies and what they mean to 911 in Oklahoma. And I say it all the time, but they always make me look good, and I appreciate them every day. So, so Mike Clifton sent something in and says, "What about trust authority that does not pay dispatch personnel? That cost is split between the city, county, city budgets, not the trust budget." It's a good question. Even though the trust, so your trust may just pay for 911 equipment or CAD equipment or whatever that may be, we still need to capture those costs because there's still a cost. And so what we have to be careful on is when we, again, apples to apples, but when we present this information to the legislature or to anyone that has questions about it, really, we need to make sure that we're capturing all the costs related back to what it costs to run a 911 center. So we ask for you to get with the county or the city to determine what those costs are and include those in the forms. Anything else? Greg Fisher. Greg asked, was there discussion with ECATS to develop a standard query for data in the form for those agencies that have accessed ECATS? Was this accomplished? No, it was not yet. One thing we're looking at doing, just didn't have time to do it this year, is the administrative committee is for the authority is looking at standing up a subcommittee that will develop a standardized report that we can work with the primary vendors, 911 vendors in the state to emulate. And so they could basically have an Oklahoma registration form or report, and you would actually just click on it and it pulls all the data out that we need in a systematic report that you can fill out the information on the form and then submit that report to us. So, so that's where so right now we don't have that, but we hope we have some work with that within the next year for next year's report. Mike Clifton followed up a secondary question related to the budget. His question originally was, what about the trust authority that does not pay for dispatch personnel? That cost is split between the county and city budgets and not the trust authority budget. So his follow-up question is, doesn't that screw up numbers as far as revenue versus expenses? So the revenue, you'll need to account for the revenue for those dispatcher salaries as what do we call in the form for the go to form 3. You need to account for it in the general tax appropriations. So there's a section in there about appropriations, and basically that's the amount of money that is paid into this 911 system from municipal or county governments from general tax revenue in order to keep you in the black. So if you're set up as a trust, the trust takes care of all the technology, so your money's going to come from the wireless and wireline, and you may have additional funding coming in to offset costs for CAD and all of that could be in that appropriations part. So it's scrolling down. It's right there. It's number 5, local appropriations. So what you'll do is you'll add whatever those salary costs are that those local city and counties are paying. You'll add that amount back into the revenue side because somebody's paying that. It's still revenue. Wade Patterson has a question. Not sure if you've already covered this, but our admin calls do not come through our Vesta program. Therefore, we do not have any way to track the admin calls incoming and outgoing require a registration form. Any advice? Basically, leave those blank or put them NA. You can't leave them blank, but you put NA or unknown will be fine in those administrative calls. Do not do that in the 911 calls. We do need real numbers in there. Don't make up the numbers. Don't use just anything out of the sky. We want actual numbers or we want unknown. So it is a good recommendation from our office, though, to have a call accounting system on your administrative calls if that's possible, because it helps to justify locally the number of other stuff that you're doing within your dispatch center. So maybe something to look at. Ryan Murray asked, I'm getting all new equipment next week. Whoop, whoop. Good job, Ryan. Do I just give you the info for the new equipment, or do I need to split it up by date for old equipment and new equipment as far as functions? I would say go ahead and put in the new equipment as long as you're live when you're filling that out and let us know what that new equipment is. The reason why we ask for new equipment is because it helps us plan for next generation 911. And if you give us your old equipment, it's not going to do us any good for that planning piece. If something happens and you do not go live by the time you fill out the form, then use what you're using today and put that in, because it helps us with the planning process. Mike followed up his question again and says, also provide a budget for the city and county. That would be preferred, Mike, is if you could provide that. It helps us know where those funds are coming from. However, I would say that's not mandatory because you don't necessarily have control over that. But we at least need to know where your 911 funds are going. What else? Hey, Dave Grissom, how are you?
Doing good, you?
All right. We'll wait a little bit longer. Does anybody have any good jokes? Brent Hawkinson, I see that you always have a good joke or something, don't you?
Not that I can tell here.
I can't hear you, Brent. Your lips are moving, but you ain't saying nothing. Oh, hold on. Maybe you are. Try that again. Oh, no. Okay. No jokes. All right.
Hey, Lance. Lance, you still there?
I don't think you can hear.
Sorry about that. So I'm not sure how much you heard, but what happens if you do not turn in your forms on the 27th, November 27th, when they're due? So each year since we started this, we've had people that did not make the deadline. So what we will do is we will put that a list to get together of what's missing, and we look for 4 components. We look for Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, and a budget. So we have a checklist that Stacy puts together and goes through, and we confirm that. We look at multiple different sources, make sure we didn't miss something. And we put that checklist together and we put it in the public packet that goes to the 911 Management Authority. And what we ask the 911 Management Authority to do from the very onset is to allow us to go ahead and send registered letters to each of those that did not fill out the forms, requesting a public hearing that for this year would happen in January. So in the month of December, They're due November 27th. The December meeting, we would ask the 911 authority for us to send letters, formal letters with notification drafted by the AG's office, Attorney General's office. We send that to you. We ask for you to attend the January meeting. That would be a public hearing to tell us why we shouldn't escrow your funds and why you were unable to fill out the forms. And at that point, the 911 Management Authority can take action to tell the 911 or the Oklahoma Tax Commission to escrow your funds until you come into compliance. Typically, we can escrow those funds the same month. I think checks go out around the 12th, so it really depends on when that meeting hits in January, whether or not your funds will be escrowed in January or if they would be escrowed in February. Obviously, that takes a lot of work and a lot of time. And honestly, it's time that we could be spending on other things. And so, you know, we beg and plead for you to work with us to get these things done. We beg and plead for you to give us data and give us information. Over the next year, 1 to 5 years, we are going to be going to the legislature and we are going to be asking for changes to our statute. It's going to happen. And if we go empty-handed or we go with numbers and information that is not valid, then that's not going to bode us very well whenever it comes to trying to pass laws. So we ask everyone to do your due diligence and help us try to compare apples to apples and provide us the information that we need so they know what the cost is to run the show. So with that, that's what I have. Is there anything else, Stacy, that you see?
No, just trying to ask that if it's not last year's form, they said that you have to just see if I have last year's forms for them and
Okay. So Greg says, I have last year's forms that I submitted, but others may not. Can they be emailed out to everyone that submitted last year? We can do that. I would prefer to do that upon request. So if you need to see your previous, what you submitted last year, then send OEM at, 911@oem.ok.gov, and we'll find those forms and get them sent back out to you. Greg also said, and my previous question, can they be emailed out to everyone submitted last year for a working reference for this year? Again, if you don't have them, then you know, you can send us a request and we'll get them sent out to you. I just don't want to. If you've got them, that's great. That's why we have the response and the email to put your email in if you want a copy of them. But we can certainly help you out. It's just the way we do it. It would be about 400 emails that we'd have to send out. So it's bundlesome.
And this year it does have that same opportunity for you to put your email address in and get them sent to you. And then once you submit it, there's another one that asks you, you know, if you need to send it to like the sheriff or something, you can put an additional email in that.
Oh, I think you're muted. So
Just
okay, all right.
so you can put an extra one in there so you can send it to somebody else.
Okay. So I don't know if you heard that or not, but there's a place for 2 email addresses now. So if you want to send it to yourself and send it to the sheriff or your supervisor or whatever it may be, you have the opportunity to do that with 2 different email locations. So thanks, Stacy, for looking ahead and putting that in there. We're here to help. It's kind of our slogan. So, you know, we're here as a resource for you. We're asking you to help us with this information so we can be a better resource to help you succeed in the future. So there you go. We're here to help. Call us if you have questions. That's all we have for today. So we will be talking to you guys later. If you need anything, holler at us. If you see anything neat that's going on out in the area, you want us to publicize us on our list, on our email servers and Facebook and things like that, then send it to us. We want to brag about you. So that's all we have. Karen, I appreciate putting all this together. Stacy, I appreciate you making this happen. Appreciate the 911 Management Authority and all their support that they give us. So with that, we'll end the call. I appreciate it.